book review.
So this is the first novel of the YouTube sensation, fashion vlogger, entrepreneur Zoe Sugg, aka Zoella. Many of you probably know her. As a personal disclaimer, I don't really follow her. I kind of only know the scandals that she's kind of been a part of. So apologies on that, but I did take a quick skim through her channel just to make sure like she's not the long lost sister of... So thankfully it doesn't look like it. More or less, she just seems like your typical warm, bubbly personality type beauty blogger. And I also found out that she has a book club, which is really cool in my opinion. I love the idea of shouting out books that you've read or really liked. It's always good to spread the love, and that's why I'm hoping PewDiePie will make his, because I know he reads a lot. Anyway, before we actually get into the book, a few other things I want to say is that I know it's ghostwritten, but truth be told, it really doesn't feel like it, and you can take that as a positive or negative. It just really felt like the first draft of someone who'd never written a full-length novel before, so that's why I say that. So with that being said, I'm just gonna go into like the plot, the characters, the plot twists, and things like that for now. So what's the book actually about? The book is about Penny Porter, who is, I believe, a girl in year 11 living in Brighton, UK. Probably the clumsiest girl in the entire world. Like, clumsy up to astronomical levels. It's not just like, oh crap, I spilled something on my shirt. It's literally like being in the worst possible situation where she's with the boy that she likes and she pretends that she has fleas by accident, makes a fart sound on her chair, and accidentally trips as she's getting up to go. She also has her gay best friend, her loving family, and an occasional blog. And just a quick note, for a book that's called GirlOnline, she rarely spends her time online. I'm gonna estimate, and I think less than 15% of her book is actually her on her blog, and the rest deals with her romance, her panic attacks, and her friends kind of not friends. I think, just as my own writerly thoughts, I think it would have been more interesting had Zoella written this entire book in blog format, because we would really be confined to reading it as her readers, even though it's Penny's readers, and we would be reading as her readers. I think it would have been such a better book if she had stuck to that entire format the entire way through, but I understand it's really difficult. It's not hard for like the first maybe like 5 or so chapters, but anyone who's written in that format will tell you it's very difficult to keep yourself confined to it. So I kind of get it. My personal assessment is that it's kind of a perspective that takes a really, really well-versed writer to write in that format and still have it be really engaging. So I don't fault her for it, but I think it would have been really cool if she had stuck to just the blog format. So a little bit of a wasted opportunity, but I get it, like, it's hard. I'll say it's hard. But with so little of the book actually being a blog, they really should have called it Girl at Home and Occasionally Online. Okay, in a throwaway line, she does mention that she has been blogging non-stop-ish for the last 6 months, but it's already just breaking the cardinal sin of show don't tell, because we don't get to experience those 6 months as her readers, and it's hard to see why her followers jump up like by the thousands or the hundreds, like just with one blog post without seeing that kind of progression. So, I mean, that'll get to my later point of why I believe this is like the very first draft of a story that's barely ghostwritten or anything, because there would be a lot more attention paid to the world building, and by including those blog posts, even if it's like short, it kind of helps ground it and show us how many followers she's gaining, what kind of following she's gaining, and how it's all gonna affect the story later on. Oh, if you only want to hear good things about the book, skip to this time. The problem that I have mainly with this book is that it feels like the characters are not three-dimensional characters. It feels like the characters are there to serve one purpose, and the one purpose always revolves around Penny. Her early crush is Ollie. He's the typical hot guy everyone loves to look at him in school type of person, and kind of just serves to be the person that makes Penny feel inadequate. Her quotation mark friend Megan appears to have no real arc other than to make Penny's life miserable, so. And then there's her gay best friend Elliot, who is struggling with things that are his own, so I think there was an attempt to make him a fully fledged character, but the problem was he kind of still always revolved around Penny. Another weird thing about him is that he does a complete 180 in his character and just shuts her out. It seemed like it was just written that way so it could make Penny feel more and more isolated. There was nothing motivating him to be a dick at that point, really. Like, the explanation is that he feels threatened by her new love interest, Noah, but I don't know, I just don't feel it, because like, if best friends don't feel threatened by a potential boyfriend or girlfriend, they feel protective of their friend, but they don't feel threatened, like they're gonna take them away from me, because they know that their friend will always be there for them. I don't know, that's my experience. I just, maybe her definition of best friend feels different, I don't know. Then there's her love interest, Noah, like a man built of 1,000 cliches. Like cliches that I actually had to write this down because I was just like, man, each time I hit one, it's like hitting bingo on the bingo chart. He's a musician rock star, he always listens, he's super sensitive, and he takes her on the perfect first date where he takes her scarf off for her. He jokes about marrying her and gives the perfect Christmas presents. What else does he do? He connects with her on a spiritual and emotional level. He dotes on his little sister, who ends up just serving as a mouthpiece to confirm that Penny is indeed the love of Noah's life. Sister has no character either, by the way, besides that. He's super protective of his family, and he's handsome to the point that she calls him rock god-tastic. Okay, I'm so sorry, but the number of times rock god-tastic has been written into this book is a little overboard, I might say. Am I saying that there is no guy out there like this? No, there's like a bazillion people out there. I'm sure a few of them are gonna hit this mark. But to me, the problem with that in this book is that just everything fits together so perfectly that it's kind of like fantasy without the tension. Everything's just so perfect. It just doesn't feel real anymore, because everyone knows that reality is not perfect. People are flawed. Everyone's flawed. How many times I would say there are first dates that they end up being good and fun, but there's so many like awkward moments through them, but people try to work through them. Here it was just like magic, magic, magic. Like every step of the journey was magical. And just reading about it was kind of a little boring. This is just my 2 cents on what I like in romance. I find it more gripping when there's like a willingness for both people to overcome conflict and make it work, rather than just everything being super perfect and magical all the time. Because when everything's just so perfect, it doesn't hold up that mirror to reality, and the lack of tension kind of just killed the romance a little bit. At least for me. I don't know, other people may feel different. Like, I would have appreciated a little bit more reciprocity. The only thing I could really remember that she did for him was that she kind of helped and comforted him when he was having a difficult time during New Year's when his parents passed or watched that movie. That's the only point I can point to. And to that note, I think it was honestly a little too early to introduce that about his backstory, because he told Penny about his parents' death really early on. If it was that critical or of a thing in his life, I just feel like he would have kept that to himself a little bit. Especially later on, we find out that he's like a YouTube music sensation. Like, if he really wanted to keep that private, he should have been pretty wary about who he tells these sorts of things to. So anyway, what happened to these 2D cardboard cutouts? Okay, let's find out. Penny helps out with the school play. Her guy crush kind of strings her along and uses her to take photos of him. And her quotation mark best friend steps all over her.
So you agree? What? You think you're really pretty?
Penny embarrasses herself by tripping over the stage and flashing everyone with her rainbow unicorn underwear. and becomes super viral because everyone in the school started reposting it and such. So she wants to disappear off the face of the earth. Side note, I know it says that this video went viral, but even back in 2014, I think this is copyrighted, and that shit's so tame. That is so tame compared to what's on the internet. I feel like it would have literally like blown past people's heads in like 2 days. I don't know. Her parents get approached to coordinate a wedding in America, and these people are so rich that apparently they can afford to fly the whole family out there, and a close friend of the daughter. Like, they're that rich apparently. There she meets Noah, the love interest we talked about earlier. And again, I don't know why I have to bring this up, but she refers to him as rock god-tastic at least 4 times. I mean, it's so cringy, but I mean, I guess what high school girl isn't, for sure. They do the perfect New York outing and get soul bonded, basically.
Soul bonded?
Gushy stuff, more gushy stuff.
This is disgusting.
More mushy stuff, and then some more gushy stuff. The best friend's forced to fly back home for New Year's, and Penny stays in New York. She could have been a little bit better at responding to his messages and such, but she was a little preoccupied with the walking talking cliche. So, I mean, I guess that tells you about her side of the friendship. Then, very sad goodbye, Penny goes back home and he writes a whole song for her. But it turns out that Noah is actually a YouTube internet sensation, and he's currently dating Leah Brown, who is a mega pop star by traditional means. The whole thing blows up. Everything goes to shit. Penny's ousted as GirlOnline. If you forgot, don't worry, she's only written like 5 or 6 blog posts throughout the entire book, so at this point I almost forgot too. Panic attacks, a lot of panic attacks. Her family comes to comfort her, and her brother especially comes to pull through and becomes the rock she needs to stand up for herself. So good on you, fictional brother. She pulls herself up, she makes up with Elliot, and they pour milkshakes on Ollie and Megan, who are apparently the ones who ousted her as GirlOnline. And final note, Noah flies all the way to Brighton and tells her the true story, where he's not actually in a relationship with Leia. They just did that for like a publicity thing because her music was tanking. And he only cares about Penny. Yay! Happy ending! Okay, so I have some quick random thoughts. Okay, so GirlOnline is thirsty. Like, she is so thirsty. First, she wants to ride Ollie's wagon, and I'm sorry, I couldn't think of anything at that point. And then less than a week later, she flies off to New York because Ollie's a tool, obviously. And then she wants Noah, like, immediately. Half-Slog's letters, like, kiss me, kiss me, kiss me, like, at least 4 times, I think I counted, like, thirsting for him. So, yeah, a lot of thirst. The girl just needs to calm herself a little bit, just a little bit. Another weird thing is that Penny made internal comments about how Megan always switches the conversation and makes it about herself. And then with Elliot, she kind of does the same thing, because like when Elliot's kind of like done talking about Noah, he starts talking about other things, and she's like, oh, why don't you want to talk about my new boyfriend? Why aren't you happy for me? Oh my god, me. So she doesn't like when other people talk about themselves, but when other people don't want to talk about her, she's not cool with that either. One bizarre thing to me is that they refer to each other as inciting incidents, and okay, I found this so strange because like I feel like I was in the conference room where Penguin was talking to Zoella, Penguin the publisher, and teaching her about how to write a 3-act structure, or what the general basics of a story is. And she included it as if it was a really poetic thing. But I don't know. I think you learn about inciting incidents like in Lit 1 or like Screenwriting 101. Practically everyone's heard of it. So it just feels very odd for this to be included in the story. It was like trying to be...
This is deep.
Like, I get it. If it was a little bit more of an obscure thing, like a Latin phrase or a Greek phrase or something, even like any other language that just not a lot of people would have heard of, and then they learn it from this story and they're like, oh, cool, that's like something neat. I never really thought about or learned before, then I would understand, because there's at least a little bit more of a obscurity to it. But when they refer to each other as inciting incidents, it really feels like you took writing 101 and took the first thing that they said out of the class and put it in your book, in your first book ever. So it feels a little strange. I don't know, maybe I'm just old. I like to yell at clouds. And lol, the plot twist. Throughout the story, Noah and Penny say that they are soulmates for each other. They're like the perfect fit. Like they've never met anyone that just fits with each other so perfectly as they do. But like when shit really hits the fan, they can't even complete a single thought to each other. Let me find it. Like I think I tagged it. It was like TBH280 something. So he messaged her like normal. He's just like, hey, inciting incident, what's up? I miss you, Bella misses you, Sadie misses you. Let me know when you're awake and when you can Skype. And then she responds, this is after like the whole thing, she finds out that he's been dating a megastar behind her back and she didn't even know. She responds, I don't think this is gonna work out and I think it's probably best if we don't contact each other again, sorry. And then she erases the sorry. But you see how that text tells him nothing about why she's not contacting him or provides no explanation of the sort? If you want to say that this is the realism of high schoolers and how they talk to each other, maybe there's some truth to that. But I would also say, if you really want me to root for this romance, like I want these characters to be smart. I want them to treat others the way they want to be treated. I just don't want them to make stupid, rash decisions like this that aren't really based on anything substantial. Yeah, in her mind, her whole world's blown up because she fell in love with the guy who was two-timing her, basically. But I would have respected her way more if she was actually asked for his response to something like that, because I think, if anything, he owes her an explanation. But she's just like, no, I don't think we should talk anymore, bye. And I don't even think she was satisfied with that, so whatever, I mean, I don't know. Okay, so the next page, he's like, what the hell? This is a joke, right? Call me, I can't get through to your phone. So at least in a rational world, he's trying to get an explanation from her. She didn't respond, and then his response to that was, I hope whatever they paid you was worth it. Damn right, there'll be no more contact. I've changed my number and email address. I never want to hear from you again. I trusted you. Okay. So many problems with this communication right here. So like I wrote this as like amusing because I was just like, oh my god, if I were Penny, like this is what I would have written. I would have written like after he wrote his first like, oh, let me know when you're awake, when you feel like Skyping, and she would respond, this is Penny. I think the number you're looking for is Leah Brown. Okay? See, at least there, it would add some sass for one, be like, hey, I'm onto you and I know the shit that you pulled. And two, it tells him exactly what the problem is. That would give him the entire explanation he needs as to why she's not speaking to him. And it would even allow him at least a moment of like, oh shit, okay, you found out, let me try to explain myself. I mean, the response that she gave him was just like a nothing response. So of course he's gonna be confused as to why. And then she started assuming things, and then he started assuming things, and you can see that this whole thing just blew up out of proportion. Oh my god, like come on, you said you guys were soulmates, okay? Soulmates communicate better than this. Sorry, I didn't mean that. Okay. Now this goes back to the writing and execution of this book, because what breaks a romance story, in my opinion, is when the reader can clearly point out there's like a moment where they're pulled out of the story and saying to themselves like, whoa, why did she word herself like that? Why was she motivated like that? And it's just written vaguely just to stir up tension. I think that's a problem. And I guess final musing is when they make up at the end, it takes like the last 5 pages where she's just kind of like, okay, I'll take you back. So what happened was that he was just doing it because it was part of his musical contract and they had already had that thing in promotions and whatever. So he was kind of just bound to put a public face on. And he indeed really loved Penny, and it's only Penny, and the Leah Brown thing is just out of his mind. So it takes Penny no time at all just to like, okay, sure, I'll take you back. Yeah, like never mind all the ups and downs of figuring out how to work your relationship out between all these factors that happened. Nah, it's not important. They're forgiving. They get back together. We're done. No, we're done. Just press print. If this were any other girl, I feel like she should be on guard. She should be like, okay, even if your story is completely true, like, let me get a few days to mull this over. Because think about it, this whole scandal has like blown up in her face and really caused a lot of problems for her. So the fact that she wouldn't take it slow to fact check everything and make sure she doesn't get burned again is a little bit of a moment, you know? Okay, so overall thoughts. First of all, let me just say the reason why I feel like it's still very much Zoella's voice or whatever is because this book really does feel like it's the first draft of someone who's never written a story before. Like, here, I'll point out some examples. So there's a lack of foreshadowing in the plot twist that Noah's a two-timer. If this book went through like 2, 3, 4 more revisions, then they probably would be there. Like the instances were there. Like, I know she listed it out and she's like, oh, why didn't I see that? He tried to avoid that girl. He tried to not go in public much. He had that conversation with Sadie. Like, there are these small instances, but like they could have been attributed to everything, and it was just so overshadowed by all the mushy gushy stuff of the romance that it just felt like, oh, okay. I would say the best foreshadowing is when the plot twist is revealed and then the reader can be like, oh, I totally should have seen that coming. That is such a twist, right? But there is even a line where he meets up with Dorothy. I forgot who she was. She's like a store owner or something. And she's like, oh, you guys are together? Like, so if it was proper foreshadowing, there would have been no moment like that. Because that was what told Penny that he didn't have a girlfriend. Maybe mentioning Leah Brown in the beginning, Megan scrolling through her phone and listening to Noah's music and maybe his voice seems familiar later on. Something like that, something to really bring it full circle, but it pretty much just came out of the blue. It's like, oh, hey, he's a big YouTuber. Huh. You know, and I was like, oh, I guess so. And oh, he's dating this person. Huh. A bit more foreshadowing definitely would have been tackled in like revision 2, 3, 4. And another reason I feel like this is purely Zoella's vision is because it really feels like a skeleton of a book. The world building of this book should have been, and you think it's like, oh, it's a contemporary novel. Like, what kind of world building do you need? We have phones, we have computers, we all know this stuff. But I mean in the terms of her blogging, Noah's fame, and how famous Leah Brown is. Because when the whole thing blows up in their faces, it's hard to tell how much of a toll this is really taking on Penny. She tells us, oh my god, it's like the worst thing ever. Panic attacks, and I believe her, okay, the panic attacks and such, but it's so much better to your reader if you illustrate, okay, how big is GirlOnline blog? How big is Noah? How big is Leah? Like, once you understand that, then you can quantify how huge this is becoming. Is it online huge, or is it real world huge, right? Touches like that really adds more to the story, so if it had another few revisions or so, it probably would have touched on that a lot more.
My dream has been to write a book. I have been a bookworm since the minute I could read, it's all I did. All I did was read. So Penguin contacted me a while back, like, hey, have you ever, thought about writing a book? And I was like, of course. Like, I would absolutely love to write a book.
So what do I think about YouTubers writing fiction books? One, I really like the idea, honestly, because I think there's a shortage of people reading, and if it gets people to read more, then I'm all for it. But also I could definitely tell like this was a publisher that approached a YouTuber rather than a YouTuber really wanting to write. I think YouTubers have a better grasp on writing like a collection of essays type of books. I think that works a lot better than fiction, especially if YouTubers don't have the time to go back and revise their works over and over again before it's ready for publishing. Because honestly, Zoella has a lot of really cool, quirky things to say, and I could tell that she was trying to say them through her fiction, but because it wasn't quite executed well, it fell flat a little bit. But let me point to some examples. And I want to state some good things about the book. So this is the part in the video it's gonna be. Like the loss of a friendship. That section where she was talking about Megan, it really seemed like she was drawing on personal experience, and it felt so real. Like the way she described certain feelings and the way she described how the falling out happened. I think there's a really good essay that Zoella could probably write on that. Keeping the wonder in your life. Like she talks about this thing in the book called Magical Mystery Day, and it sounds like it's a kid's thing, and it's kind of where you just pick somewhere on the map and go place and eat cake, have a fun day filled with no other worries. And I like the idea because it sounds like a kid's thing and it was introduced that way, but if it sparks joy, like why shouldn't you do that? Why shouldn't teens or adults be able to get to experience that too? So that's something I feel like she could write an essay on. Using texting as a language. There was this whole bit where she was trying to figure out how to word the perfectly worded text message to Noah, and like she was delving into like an almost internal commentary about how people write and receive text messages, like how an emoji can convey childishness, or word choices can affect the tone of the text. Like, does it feel too serious? Does it feel too jokey? Does it feel like I'm just gonna be pushed into the friend zone after this? Or does it feel like it'll actually evolve into something more? So there's a real construction to how messages are formed and such like that. Vulnerability. She basically talked to the reader, broke fourth wall, and was saying like there's a reason why her and Noah connected, and it was because they saw each other cry in front of each other, and to be able to cry in front of each other is a really powerful and vulnerable thing that you have to allow yourself to do. So again, another wonderful essay topic that I think she probably has a lot of experience and can speak to a lot about in that. Let's see. The anxiety that you get with phone notifications when you have an internet presence. This is something only a small portion of the people on Earth will ever feel, but that feeling is very real, and I feel like Zoella is also one of the few people that could actually really speak to this. There was a real truth when Penny was describing her feelings about the whole scandal blowing up and such. That's the main reason I knew the scandal with Noah and Leia was like a big thing, was because she was talking about it like it really happened, and it probably really did happen to Zoella, and she's drawing upon real emotion and real life experience to illustrate the fact that how low she is feeling, and how the best comments were just ew, gross, or what a hoe, or something like that. Those are like the best comments, the most positive ones, before she quickly pulls away from it. A lot she could write about that, but it was kind of quickly glazed over. So in an essay, perfect. Like, I bet she can go into a lot of detail and a lot of experience with that. And seeking help is not a weakness. So Noah was talking to this with Penny after his own struggles with his parents, and it helped Penny get through her panic attacks and her own hurdles to jump through. There is a lot to say about this, and I think there was a good moment where he was speaking very insightfully to her. So yeah, I just think Zoella actually has a lot of cool, quirky, insightful things to say. I get why people have followed her. But the difference is when you're writing fiction and there's an important message that you do want to spread to your audience, if it's not built up or executed correctly, it feels like it's just dropped from the sky and it just doesn't feel earned. So that's the main difference between, say, writing a collection of essays and writing something that's fiction with messages inside it. Overall, definitely a book skewed towards younger readers, but not completely devoid of content. And for a very first novel, not bad. Not bad, honestly. Usually people never get to publish their first novels, me included, because most of them are doggy poop. But Zoella was either lucky or unlucky, depending on how you want to see it. And I'll be reading her next book, the sequel, which I believe is called GirlOnline Going on Tour, I think. Don't quote me on that, I'll have to double check. But yes, I haven't read the whole series yet. This is just my review and my discussion of book one, my thoughts on it, and some musings I had. For her and her writing, I may tackle ghostwriting in a different video and bring this book up as an example, but for now I just kind of wanted to talk about the story as it was. So look forward to that. Rate, comment, subscribe if you can. If you've read this book, love to hear your thoughts on it too. So yeah.